If I told you that there was a time when the ministers of an African country traveled to New York on economy class for government business and slept on mattresses that were placed on the floor, would you believe me? Well, this is not a figment of my imagination, as this happened in reality about 41 years ago. So in 1984, the president of Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara, traveled to the UN headquarters in New York for a General Assembly meeting along with some ministers and government officials. With Burkina Faso not having a presidential jet, Thomas Sankara often traveled to international meetings by joining the flights of other African leaders. Also, Thomas Sankara had made it mandatory that all Burkinabe government officials could only fly in economy class and stay at the most modest accommodation options. So the story about what transpired at Burkina Faso's UN mission in New York is told by a staff member who was there at the time. According to him, mattresses were put on the floor of the mission for the Burkinabe government officials to sleep on, and this was approved by Thomas Sankara, who said, "There's nothing wrong with that. This should bring back to some of you memories from the time you were students." He went on to remind them about how the money saved on hotel bills would be used to build schools and provide water for the people back home. Such an amazingly selfless leader. Now, this is not the only time that the discipline and cost-saving measures of Thomas Sankara is highlighted. Sankara himself recounts how the Minister of Labor in his government traveled to Geneva for an international conference one time and could not afford accommodation there due to the high cost of hotels. This was primarily because of the fact that all ministers had been given a daily allowance of 15,000 CFA francs, and this was far inadequate to afford a hotel room in Geneva. As a result, that minister had to go to neighboring France and share a modest hotel with his colleagues. Here is what Sankara had to say about all this. "This is nothing to be ashamed of. Perhaps his living conditions enabled him to carry out his assignments even better than had he been staying in a palace." Now, compare and contrast this with the mindset of leaders all over Africa today.